Hey everybody, this is Perch. I've talked about this topic of more money in comics would equal better comics, and this gets to be. To me, this is a really simple concept, and it's one that gets overthought by some of you in the audience. It's all your fault. You're bad people. No, I'm kidding. I'm kidding, of course. How can this be taken out of context? You'd be surprised by it. We make these jokes, and then I say, this kind of goofy stuff like, "Oh, will anybody take me out of context?" And people will write like, "Ah, stop being an ass." And you think it's a joke, but then sure enough, some article, some bounding into comics article will show up like, Perch says on his audience and Nazis. And it's like, literally, it's not a joke. That this is where we are in the world. I don't know. Context matters. Look, I put it this way. We can continue to live in this fantasy world where we can take kind of one sentence out of, what people say and ignore all the rest of it and kind of invent our own context. We can do that. You're welcome to do it. But when you go into the real world, particularly if you are, going to get a job at some point, playing it that way in your career will get you fired and definitely is not going to have you advance to anywhere. Like if unless you've got an individual contributor job where you don't have to talk or deal with people, and man, that sounds wonderful. Context is going to really matter in terms of advancing and just, having a stable career, even if you hate it. One of the biggest skills I tell people who are looking to get into the corporate world is, a lot of people come into a job with with a mentality, whether it's their politics or religion, kind of what they believe, how things should be done, etc. And it's in your brain, it's hardened. You may have, been this way since child. But you need to be able to engage with other people. And so pretend, at least, or ideally in your head, put that in a little box. Don't let go of it. Keep your values, of course, but be able to engage with other people who have radically different views and, make progress. If you can do that, again, it's one of the best ways you can be successful. I have seen several careers and one absolutely tank, because could not see any viewpoint beyond their own. Just couldn't do it, refused to do it, and then would build up excuses like, well, it's important that I stick to my values. Yeah, okay, but this isn't about sticking to your values. It's about just listening to context and hearing what other people have to say. And when you close yourself off like that, no matter how good you are, people stop wanting to work with you. And so, just for what it's worth, you see a lot of behavior on Twitter, other places, and a lot of stuff in comics. From the pros, too, by the way. There's this article, which we'll do another video on, and, there's Jamal Engel over there, like, this sounds like something a comic skater would say. I was like, okay, that's the owner of the largest retail shop, in the Southeast, and moves a huge volume of comics. And now you are calling that person a Nazi, because basically in this article, the guy said, hey, changing all the legacy characters, gender, race swapping, etc. All of the legacy characters, people don't recognize the characters then, and you lower sales. This is not a controversial comment. This is obvious. It is just, if Captain America, Superman looks a certain way, you can make a different version of Superman. You're welcome to do it. You're empowered to do it. But you do have to understand that by doing that, you are going to lower the sales, not because of racism, but because it doesn't look like the character that is worldwide recognizable. Take Garfield and you take away the stripes and you make him skinny and blue fur instead of orange, but you say, this is still Garfield. A large number of the audience is going to go, what? No, that I don't recognize Garfield. Forget it. That's what you've done. Now, that again, does that mean you can't do it? Of course not. You can do whatever you want, but there's business implications to the things we do. Anyway, more money, better comics is, to me, is self-evident, but it's easy to get kind of wrapped around in that because the counter argument is like, but the people making comics today don't deserve that money. Sure. Whatever, run with that. But if you want to attract talent, big talent likes to get paid. Talent people who are really talented know what they're worth. Joe Mad went to do a lot of work in gaming, and he likes games, but he went to do that because there was more money in it for him. He was able to strike a better deal than what he had in comics. He's very talented. This is what talented people do. They go where the money is. It's as simple as that. So, by the way, one thing you can do is basically in comics say, hey, we're going to put a lot more money into comics. We're going to raise people's salaries, but only the talented people. Only the talented people. Like if you have a good book, if you show commercial success, you can sell, then we're going to triple your page rate. If you don't have that, then better figure it out, or you're getting the low page rate. You could do that too. That's fine. I mean, not just fine, that's logical. But at the end of the day, if you want super talented people, you're going to have to pay higher rates. It's just how the world works. But anyway, we got this mail here. It says, Perch, I kind of wanted to push back on your more money, better comics video. Not shocking. Anyway, in the abstract, I agree. But I can see why people are skeptical because, as we just learned, Disney spends $25 million on an episode of She-Hulk and is still putting out a bad show. So if Disney just went ahead and paid Marvel writers more money, would they actually make better comics? Okay, so here's how we fix this sentence. Super easy. You need to pay writers more money. You do not pay the writers who do not have commercial success more money. So if they paid Marvel writers more money, okay, look at the Marvel writers. Who of that group pulls in sales? Now, this may be a slightly controversial statement, but this is capitalism at its finest. Donny Cates brought sales. Donny Cates also had many other issues, but Donny Cates had sales. It is logical to say, hey, the people who consistently are able to move a title over 75,000 should get a pay raise. If you can move it over 150,000, you get a very big pay raise. That's the mentality. So, and by the way, it doesn't count if you're just on, if you're on Spider-Man, if Spider-Man just sells that, then, hey, the benchmark is you've got to move the title up. Meaning if you come into Spider-Man and it's selling 80,000, and you can move that 80,000 copies to, 100,000 copies, okay, that's showing that you can grow the overall channel, so you should make more money. If you come in at 80,000 and you keep it at 80,000 or you drop to 75, no pay raise for you. But if you come onto a popular title and you're able to grow it, more money. It's really that simple. So you don't pay, you don't go around and say, good news, everybody, you all got a raise. Now do better work. No, that would not work. I agree. That doesn't work. You have to put more money into the pie, into the pot, so you can attract better people. That's the premise. Anyway, you touched on this concerning your video, but maybe not why the current system makes it questionable that more money would help. I think the problem with the big two is that they are divorced from the marketplace because Marvel and DC are of little interest to their big corporate overlords. As long as they don't cost Disney Discovery too much, they don't care how good or bad they do. The talent may not be making more money, but they're not really incentivized to do well because they won't be paid more for doing great, but they also won't get paid less or fired for doing badly. So I have a slightly different view on this. I agree, by and large, that, by being owned by giant corporations, they get a lot of shelter, and those giant corporations view this stuff as marketing more than a profit center. Now, that doesn't mean there's no profit. You could talk to people at Marvel who say, they definitely have meetings where they look at sales numbers and profitability, all the rest. So it's not like it's completely absent. But it is it's just a different thing when you've got a large company funding you than a startup where, every check could be your last. It's different. Now, by the way, that doesn't mean like it's cushy good times at the big corporation. Anyone who's worked for a big corporation knows that, yeah, there's more money in that bank, but there's also a lot more, insane BS in order to get your hands on that money. Things are random. You get strange kind of directives. So it's not like it's happy days if you're Marvel and you just gotta get afloat along and, dip into Disney's bank. It doesn't work that way. Disney keeps things on a pretty tight string inside their own company. But the point that I'm coming more to the conclusion of is simply that, for several people in comics, they like a smaller audience. So they're there and they want to be surrounded with people who, are enjoy. It's that drive to the niche. It's, hey, we don't believe we could be selling 250,000 copies on the regular. So therefore, we should have this smaller clubhouse, if you will, be one we enjoy. And I think, it's here's what's leading to this. It's another video, but a decent amount of conversations I've had with people, I'm noticing fewer and fewer and fewer people talk about commercially viable ideas and more people talking about hey, this is something I've always wanted to do, or it will be good for the world to have this book out there, or, we know it's only going to sell 20,000. So I'm trying to write to that audience, that smaller audience versus writing to a bigger audience. And I'm okay with that, and part of it's what you say. If they don't, what's the incentive to do better? They're not going to make more money. But to the point, what's the incentive for not putting in a complete stinker? Well, none, because you're not going to get fired either. The way you're going to get fired at the big two is by making an ass out of yourself and by going online and not embarrassing, not going after, the fans. Certainly if you go after them in ways that get a lot of national attention, they're going to walk away from you. But generally, the way you embarrass them is you attack the company. That's why so few creators will go in and say, hey, I'm getting screwed. Even when you have creators from big companies who are late on royalty checks and not getting paid what they're owed. And there are some, I get argument every time I say something like this, but there are several creators at Marvel right now who have not been paid royalties that they deserve. And they are irritated, and they're also terrified to say anything about it because they believe if they say anything about it, that's the last job they're ever going to get they may get that check, but Marvel will never hire them again. They're going to be branded a complainer. So, what a great system. Anyway, back to the mail. It says, I think your idea would have a much better chance if Marvel and DC were spun off as independent entities where the owners would be focused on maximizing ROI. I agree. I don't know if Disney Discovery would ever do this because of the movie toy rights issue, but if they did, I think it would help far more than anything else. Yeah, I mean, they've run the numbers. It's better for the corporations to have these comic companies there, even if they aren't heavily profitable, because it streamlines their ability to license out to toys and movies and all the rest. It makes it much easier. If it was spun out, then they'd have to have a deal with that company in order to get the rights over to another company. And, Disney in particular hates that. If you look at kind of ownership of kind of licensable stuff, they try and eliminate those as much as possible. They will overspend to bring something in just so they don't have that logistics. And if you think about kind of the legal fees and some of the kind of financial aspects of that, I understand why. It makes sense. But that's why they're going to keep it close to their heart. And, even if that means they don't make money or sometimes even take a loss, it still nets out positively in the end because they have that control over the license. By the way, spinning out may help, maybe, if you had an owner who was really focused on ROI. But look, we've got a bunch of independent comic companies out there, and it's not better. They're not like just doing an amazing job either in a lot of cases with talent. And so I don't know, just going independent isn't enough. You have to go independent and you have to have somebody who's willing to stand up and say, our goal is cash. Our goal is return on investment. And we're going to be laser focused on that goal. And things we are not going to worry about is what Rich Johnson thinks, or Heidi, or the internet, or Twitter, or anyone, and everyone. By the way, we do not care what some, bitchy YouTube channel says. We don't care. Our goal is profit. Period. Hardcore corporate profit. That's what we're after. I think that'd be great. But you see these comic companies pump up, and the first thing they do is like, ooh, let's make sure we keep Rich Johnson happy. Well, why? Anyway. Okay, now to plug me. All right, happy to do that. As mentioned last time, the Samson Kickstarter didn't fund. I'm sorry to hear that. It was a cool project, and I wish it would have. And think about it, retool it. Let's come back at it again. It says, I've printed up the ashcan version like a 70s style Zine, and I've wrangled an invite to the Jewish comic experience taking place at the Center of Jewish History, New York City, November 11th and 12th, where I'll be passing it out. I'm also about to launch Shark of War 1 through 7. Please go to, let me get this right, sow.bitingcomics.com, sow.bitingcomics.com. To get your copies now. People go do that. Like, help this guy out. Head out there. Bitingcomics.com is a site. Sounds like Shark of War, sow.bitingcomics.com. Go support this guy. Smart guy, good guy, pushes back. I like that. Let's support these creators out there. By the way, I say for what it's worth, I have no idea what this person who wrote this mail, I have no idea. This person could be an absolute maniac on Twitter and Facebook. No idea. Purely talking about the comics. And, hey, support your indie creator. Go out there, get to the site, download something. I mean, God, why not? Go help out. Offer to, you got a local con coming up, offer to grab some of those ash cans and maybe pass them out yourself, get in on that. Go wrangle a deal where, if you could sell some, you get 5%. I don't know. Get in there. Anyway, thank you very much for the mail. And, for what it's, and also, hey, good luck to Jewish Comic Experience. I hope there's no, I hope there's nothing negative that happens, just given the state of the world right now. Definitely wish you safety and wellness. Hey, let me know what you think in the comments below. Like and subscribe, of course, and thanks for listening.